Recently, I read a life-changing book that significantly shifted the way I look at the world. Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer reminded me of the concept that Chief Seattle and Bell Hooks' Touching the Earth details. The perfumed flowers are our sisters. The deer, the horse, the great eagle, these are our brothers. The rocky crests, the juices in the meadows, the body heat of the pony, and man. All belong to the same family. It was confirmed for me once again. Since all species are our brothers and sisters, we must remember how to love one another as such, rather than treat them as artifacts at our disposal.
Here at the Hammond Lumber Company operation at Big Lagoon, portable chainsaws bite through the giant redwood trunk, and it's timber. And so the tree that was a seedling in the time of Charlemagne at last completes its cycle by going to work in the service of man.
The sense of mutual reciprocity and respect with which we should treat our kin may be fostered in a variety of ways. Science, in fact, is one of the greatest forms of love. Insert a professor of mine, an evolutionary biologist by trade, but a bird lover at heart. Corey started studying a pesky little warbler, common yellowthroats, almost 20 years ago, and since then, he hasn't looked back.
And so part of the work that that you yourself have experienced in the field, but a lot of what our work is based on, is a really incredibly detailed understanding of the behavior of the species, the reproductive behavior of common yellowthroats. And so that takes hours and hours and hours of observation of males that are individually color banded, so we know who they are, watching their movements, understanding what their territory boundaries are, who are their neighbors, how do they interact with those neighbors. And so that takes, handling every single bird, so we know its measurements, we know what it looks like, we know its behavior, and the really amazing thing is getting to know the birds at that level, and so that level of detail is amazingly fun. You get to know them as individuals, and look forward to finding out who returns every year and who doesn't, and sort of what the next chapter is going to be in kind of their crazy mating story.
In ecology, we observe beings other than our own to know them as fully as we can. In working to know them, we are effectively crossing the species boundary and slipping off our human skin, wearing fins, or feathers, or foliage. Kimmerer states that all we need as students is mindfulness. Paying attention is a form of reciprocity with the living world, receiving the gifts with open eyes and open heart.
What's really exciting is that you get to see students or individuals at the point where they come to see the world and the habitat as the birds do.
There you go. All right, you're free now.
Man, that thing's like a third the weight of the last one. 3, 4, 4. This is a black cap shift.
Ow.
The point where somebody who's kind of new to this kind of work achieves that level of familiarity and knowledge about a system is really cool to see. And helping to bring somebody to that is sort of like the magic, of teaching and that kind of work. Pull it out further. There you go. Yep. There's a nature writer, John Baker, who wrote The Peregrine back in the 60s, like a really famous nature book. And in his writing, he says that, the hardest thing of all is to see what's really there. And that really gets me. And I think that what I like about ornithology and what I like about field biology and evolutionary biology is like close attention to detail and trying to see the fabric of things and relationships and variation and discover patterns that are there in front of us that we just didn't know were there until we really looked carefully. That's so exciting to discover.
And yet, science takes observation even deeper. While our cut-and-dry methods of analysis, hard numbers, and digitized graphs may not seem like a form of love, these are ways for us to deeply understand the inscrutable lives of species not our own.
So for me, it's being in the field and being with the animals, but also being in front of the computer and JMP and seeing like, oh my God, it turns out that little did we know over the last 20 years of this study, a new lineage of malaria appeared in Saratoga County, has swept through the population from 0 prevalence to 70% of males infected. And you would never know that just walking through the woods, and discovering those patterns that are right in front of you is really exciting.
As we sit hunched over tiny specimens, counting, recording, and collecting, we are listening and interpreting what our kin has to say. We feel a sense of protection, of mutual respect, and of reverence for these remarkable beings. We are reminding ourselves that it is an honor to be the guardian of another species, and a privilege to receive their answers. And that, dare I say, is love.